And welcome back to the channel, man. You know what time it is. Thank you for checking in with your boy, Teddy Ruppleberry. It's time to jump into some of the fat electrician videos. This will be a first time. This is the first video I'm seeing from him, but I want to say he's a ex-military who became an electrician, or he used to be an electrician and went to the military. I'm not sure, but he has a bunch of military videos on his page. You should check him out. But I'm going to start with this one: the most gangster politician ever. But we're going to check out the most gangster politician ever, Cassius Marcellus Clay. Let's do it.
It's a riveting story.
Okay.
Really good. All right, we gotta go. We gotta go. I gotta tell the internet about the guy I named you after, okay? You gotta go hang out with mom now.
Okay.
Today we're talking about the most gangster politician in American history. Ladies and gentlemen, Cassius Marcellus Clay, aka the Lion of Whitehall. Whitehall being his family home that he grew up in Kentucky as the son of one of the richest slave owners in all of America. While going to college at Yale to become a lawyer, he would attend a speech from a famous abolitionist by the name of William Lloyd Garrison, and that speech would change the entire trajectory of Cassius Clay's life as well as American history. It is at that moment that Cassius Clay decided he was not only going to be quietly opposed to slavery, but
So now, Cassius Clay. If I'm not mistaken, isn't that the name of one of like the greatest boxers ever?
that he was actively going to fight against it. He would be set down the path to become the most influential abolitionist of all time. Oh god, forgot to do the ad. Hold on. Sorry for bothering the video. Real quick, this video is brought to you by the biggest sponsor of the channel and my favorite sporting goods store, Shields. They've got over 30 retail locations across the United States and an even better online store that I'm going to have linked down below, and if you use my code...
Never heard of Shields. Is there a Shields in Georgia? There could quite possibly be, but I wouldn't know.
You're going to get free shipping. They've got everything you could imagine there. This is where I got this
Now, I do know about Bass Pro Shop. That was one of my first jobs ever. Love Bass Pro Shop. Now that I know about. I was working at Bass Pro Shop before they built the second one out here in Georgia.
Shirt. It's where I got this backpack. All of it was on sale. It was a great deal. Again, use my code down below. You're going to get free shipping. Back to the video. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot to mention Muhammad Ali's original name was Cassius Clay. Yeah, he was actually named after this guy.
Yeah. I was right. Muhammad Ali's first name was Cassius Clay. And it was like, really? He's named after this guy? But I mean, he was opposed to slavery, so yeah.
Anyways, back to the video. Bye-bye. If you don't know, at this point in time, there's basically two different camps you could fall into for being anti-slavery. You could be an abolitionist or an emancipationist. An emancipationist is somebody that wants to vote it out over time, over the next 5, 10, 20 years, versus an abolitionist, which is somebody that believes we need to end slavery right now, and they're willing to fight about it. And in the case of Cassius Clay, he was willing to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. You see, Cassius Clay wasn't just some nobody punk kid that went off to college and decided that he didn't like slavery. This was the son of one of the wealthiest slave owners in all of America. So for him to come out and voice anti-slavery views was a huge deal, and it pissed off a lot of people. So being...
I can only imagine what that's like going against your dad's job. Dad, I don't want to sell slaves anymore. I'm tired. This is outright outlandish.
that this was the 1820s, what do you do when you're pissed off? You challenge somebody to a duel. So needless to say, the young Cassius Clay found himself partaking in an awful lot of duels, and he never, ever lost. So, obviously, he's pretty good at it, and what do you do when you find something you're pretty good at? You want to keep doing it, right? Right. Yeah. So Cassius Clay starts challenging anyone and everyone to a duel that dares to oppose him. It became common knowledge in his community that Cassius Clay would be willing to fight the wind if it blew from the west and he wanted it to blow from the east. This man went on a dueling rampage, so much so that by the time he graduated college, he was considered to be the deadliest duelist in all of North America. This guy was putting slave owners in the dirt like he was Johnny Appleseed planting fucking trees. He became known as the deadliest abolitionist of all time. So he graduates from college, goes back home as a lawyer. Shortly after that, his father passes away and leaves everything to Cassius Clay. Cassius Clay...
Hold on, wait. Even though his father knew he was opposed to slavery and all of that, he still left him everything? Now that, I mean, you always hear about, oh, I'm gonna write you out the will, or, you know, stuff like that. Like, he went against him entirely and everything that he stood for. And he was like, you're still my son. That's love right there, man. That's love.
Immediately frees all of his father's slaves, costing himself $40,000, which is roughly $2 million today. And then
Dang.
he even gives some of the slaves land and money on top of it, absolutely infuriating the pro-slavery people in Kentucky. So,
Yeah.
what do you do when half the local population hates your guts? You run for public office, and that's exactly what Cassius Clay did. He served in the Kentucky state legislature from 1835 to 1841, and then finally
How did he win? How did he win? If Kentucky is slave state, let's say, and he's against slavery, how do you run and then still get into, I mean, you can't be the only person that's like that in your town, I guess, right? Like there has to be other people like you, I
lost his
guess.
re-election, to which the pro-slavery crowd breathed a huge sigh of relief because they finally defeated Cassius Clay, or so they thought. Clay immediately starts traveling the country,
Oh wait, he
Cassius Clay
lost?
did. He served in the Kentucky state legislature from 1835 to 1841, and then finally lost his re-election, to which the
Ah,
pro-slavery crowd breathed a huge sigh of relief because they
he
finally
lost the
defeated
re-election.
Cassius Clay, or so they thought. Clay immediately starts traveling the country, giving amazing anti-slavery speeches, winning over hearts and minds, and this absolutely infuriates the pro-slavery people because they don't know how to stop him. You can't legally stop a guy from talking to people that want to listen to him, and they can't legally kill Cassius Clay in a duel because he's the best duelist on earth. What do? You've got to illegally kill him. The problem with that is they can't find a
What
hitman
is
that's dumb
illegal?
enough to
Kill
think that
him.
they can take out Cassius Clay, so they have to go to the one crevice of the planet where they can find somebody truly insane enough to think that they can do this
Louisiana.
job. And that man's name was Sam Brown, an assassin from New Orleans. 1834, Russell
I literally said Louisiana. I definitely said Louisiana because where are you gonna go to find somebody crazy enough? Alabama or Louisiana.
do this job. And that man's name was Sam Brown, an assassin from New Orleans. 1834, Russell Cave, Kentucky. Cassius Clay's finishing up one of his world-famous speeches as he pulls out a burlap sack, reaches into the sack and pulls out a holy Bible and says, "For those of you that believe in the laws of God, I make to you this argument against slavery," sets the Bible on the table, reaches back in the sack, pulls out a copy of the U.S. Constitution, and says, "For those of you that believe in the laws of man, I present to you this argument against slavery," sets the Constitution down on the table, drops a burlap sack to the ground and says, "For those of you that believe in neither the laws of God or man, I make to you this argument against slavery," as he pulls out both of his pistols and sets them on the table, which I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck. And at this moment, Sam Brown comes up on stage and shoots Cassius Clay point blank in the chest. Luckily, Cassius Clay never leaves home without his trusted Bowie knife, which resides inside of a metal sheath, and that metal sheath would catch Sam Brown's bullet, saving Cassius Clay's life. At which point,
Hold on, wait. A superhero moment happened? Is that what you're telling me? The boy put the guns, the Bible, and the Constitution down and took a bullet to the chest and was saved by a thin blade? Come on, bruh. I mean, now I kind of see why Muhammad Ali's first name was Cassius Clay. Like, I really had no idea who this guy was.
Cassius Clay would draw his Bowie knife and charge Sam Brown. 6 of Sam Brown's friends in the audience tried to stop Cassius
After
Clay.
being
He would
shot.
fight his way through all 6 of them, making his way to Sam Brown, promptly stabbing him in the chest, and then turning him into a Mr. Potato Head by cutting off his nose, lopping off his ear, and gouging out one of his eyes. Then the 6 men recovered and were able to peel Clay off of him.
Wait a minute. They said they were able to peel him off of him after he did this much damage. Either he was moving really quick or they were really scared. Because what? The nose and the ears? I mean, granted, the dude just tried to kill you, right? I understand that 100%. The man just tried to kill you. You gonna take all your rage out on him. But 6 people were trying. This is the guy, right? This is when everyone's talking about a gorilla versus 100 men. You need 100 Cassius Clays. That's what you need.
Not knowing what to do, knowing they couldn't stop Cassius Clay forever, they panicked, probably for fear that Cassius Clay was going to start shoving this guy's facial features up his ass next. They did the only thing they could come up with to get the two apart. They picked up their friend Sam Brown, threw him over a 7-foot-high stone wall. He fell down an embankment and into a creek bed to finally get Cassius Clay away from him. Somehow, Sam Brown survived, but not only was he lucky for that, he was also dumb as fuck because he then decided to take Cassius Clay to court because apparently after Cassius Clay stabbed him the first time, they were even on the whole assassination attempt thing.
Bruh said, I shot you, you didn't die. You stabbed me, I damn near died. We are even, sir. Everything after that was just extra. You didn't have to gouge my eye out. And the nose and the ear. Hold on, wait. He's missing a nose and an ear and an eye. And he's still walking around. Bruh, leave that man alone. I would not be bothering Cassius for nothing else ever again.
So Cassius Clay should go to prison for mayhem.
That's
so
crazy.
Cassius Clay calls upon his older cousin, one of the best lawyers on the planet that had never lost in open court with over 40 years of experience, Henry
Who is
Clay.
this family?
Henry Clay goes into court and his entire defense for his cousin is, and I quote, "Your Honor, this is just standard behavior for a Kentuckian." And the judge is just like, "You're innocent."
Standard behavior? Your Honor, this is what we do. I reckon. Like, what? He's not supposed to just go with the flow on that one, bro. But this was like
This is
1,000
just
years
standard
ago.
behavior
Not
for a
1,000,
Kentuckian.
but,
And the judge is just like, "You're innocent. Free to go. That's it. Best court case ever." Literally walks in and just goes,
I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
I love the South Park.
After Cassius Clay was found innocent, Henry Clay decides that he's going to run for president and Cassius is going to help him campaign. Cassius is going to tour the country giving speeches saying, hey, you know, vote for my cousin. Here's the rule with that. Henry Clay told him he's only allowed to tour the northern states because he's actually legitimately concerned that if he sends Cassius to the south, he's going to shoot so many fucking slave owners in duels that it could be considered voter fraud. So Henry Clay ends up losing the presidential election and Cassius moves on to his next life adventure, which is becoming an author and writing anti-slavery news articles. The problem with that was none of the newspapers were willing to publish him, so he says, fuck you, I'll start my own newspaper, The True American. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, starting an anti-slavery newspaper in fucking Kentucky in 1845 was not very popular, and his business would receive death threats pretty much every day, some of which were written in blood. So Cassius Clay, in true Cassius Clay fashion, says, fuck it, I guess we're gonna fight about it. He then proceeds to up-armor his entire business and his printing office. He covers the entire front of the office in a large iron sheet. He installs several cannons down corridors, stocks the entire thing with loaded guns, and rigs it to explode. Here's the thing, he also doesn't expect his employees to fight to the death for him, so he installs an escape hatch and instructs them to escape if anything goes down.
Bruh, okay. Now, I'm going to believe a good portion of these stories are fairly true, right? But even if they are halfway true, this man is malicious. There's no way. There's no way. His middle name should be Malicious, not Marcellus. Like, there's no way, bruh. You can't defeat someone who has that type of drive. You cannot. You can't. You cannot.
Because he's going to fight the entire mob by himself. How's he going to do that? As soon as you walk in the only door to get into that printing office, you find yourself in a long, narrow corridor with iron on each side, just wide enough for a single man to get through. Cassius Clay is going to stand in that narrow corridor and fight the entire mob one man at a time. Literally the mentality of, if you have a problem, take a number, I'll kill you in a minute. This man recreated the entire battle of fucking Thermopylae with 300 Spartans, except he's going to do it all by himself. If you think fucking with John Wick's dog is a bad idea, the last thing you want to do is fuck with Cassius Clay's printing press, because this man is determined to defend the freedom of speech with the right to bear arms at any cost.
Yeah.
Obviously, this escalates to
Yeah.
Cassius Clay defeating an entire mob single-handedly. Right? Wrong. The mob, being full of, you know, super brave pro-slavery men that know they're doing the right thing, do the honorable brave thing and wait till Cassius Clay is bedridden with typhoid fever so they know he isn't going to show up. They show up to his business at night and burn the the place to the ground because they're a bunch of fucking bitches. Now, Cassius Clay recovers from
Sounds like it
typhoid
to me.
fever. He reestablishes a newspaper in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is an anti-slavery stronghold. The only problem with that is being an anti-slavery stronghold, there's not going to be any
Cincinnati, Ohio is an anti-slavery stronghold. I did not know that. And then, anytime I've met anyone from Cincinnati, they've always been black. Now that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. Cincinnati was the capital for no slavery, and then people go there to be free, and then they just stay there. And I'm like, why? Bro, Cincinnati? I did not know that.
anti-slavery
You learn something
stronghold.
new.
The only problem with that is being an anti-slavery stronghold, there's not going to be any conflict, and that's fucking boring, so Cassius Clay moves on to another life adventure, volunteering in the Mexican-American War. While serving in the Mexican-American War, he would be a captain leading a group of Kentucky soldiers, and they would be captured pretty much immediately, and he would spend the duration of the entire war as a POW. While serving as a POW, some of the men under his command would escape, meaning that the Mexican military was then going to put the rest of his unit to death. Cassius Clay said, hey, don't kill my men, just kill me and my other fellow officers, we're the ones in charge, it's our fault that those men escaped, it's our responsibility, please let the lower enlisted men go home. The Mexican military was so impressed by this that they decided to spare everyone, including Cassius Clay, and he would return home a war hero.
It is an amazing story. Because I would love to know the Mexican side of that story. What does the Mexican say about that story?
Home from the war in 1848, he didn't really know what to do, so he starts giving his famous speeches again, this time leveraging his newfound title as a war hero. So obviously it doesn't take long for him to piss everybody off. He faces yet another assassination attempt. This time 6 brothers from a wealthy slave-owning family show up, the Turner brothers. They show up with clubs and knives and guns, and they beat the living shit out of Cassius Clay with the clubs. They stabbed him multiple times. Cassius Clay whips out his trusted Bowie knife, starts opening up these brothers like they're fucking Amazon packages, making his way to the lead brother and stabbing him, and
Bruh, you know exactly what he means. Fellas, when your lady gets a brand new Amazon package, she tears through that thing like it's freaking rice paper covering it. Like, there's nothing stopping her. I get it.
opening up these brothers like they're fucking Amazon packages, making his way to the lead brother and stabbing him an excessive amount of times. We don't know how many times, but we do know it was a lifetime supply. Killing the lead brother, ending the assassination attempt, Cassius Clay would fall to the ground, nearly dead, and this would be the closest anybody ever came to actually killing Cassius Clay. When he was asked about it later on in life, all he said was, I felt the utmost indignation, which translates to, I was fucking annoyed. This man almost died from an assassination attempt, and he has the same attitude towards it that I have towards fucking fruit flies, okay? This dude is so metal, he deserves his own spot on the periodic table of elements. Cassius Clay then makes a full recovery from his injuries, starts giving his speeches again. 1853, he donates a large chunk of his land to John Fee, who uses it to found Berea College, the first co-educational and multiracial college in the South ever. Fast forward to 1860, Cassius Clay is giving speeches in Illinois where he meets a politician by the name of Abraham Lincoln, and they get along great. Cassius Clay is then slotted to become Abraham Lincoln's vice president. However, he's a little bit too Cassius Clay to be an actual big-name politician like that, so they give the job to Hannibal Hamlin, and Cassius Clay becomes the ambassador to Russia. 1861 rolls around, the Civil War breaks out, Cassius Clay is in Russia. Cassius Clay not only convinces Russia to not side with the Confederates, but he convinces Russia to tell Great Britain and France that if they so much as recognize the Confederacy, Russia will go to war with them. And this was a humongous step that nobody talks about in the winning of the Civil War. And it is 100% because of Cassius Clay. Fast forward to 1862, Abraham Lincoln wants to appoint Clay a major general in the Union Army. Cassius Clay publicly refuses the President of the United States, saying that he's not going to do it until the President signs the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves of the South. Cassius Clay is literally the man.
So, growing up, it was always said that it was a political move, or at least to me it was said that it was a political move that he did that. Like he needed things to happen, and because of that, that was going to happen. And I mean, that quick little statement he just made, he was trying to appoint Cassius Clay to a certain position, and he publicly said no, not unless you do this. So he had more incentive to sign it than anything. I mean, I'm glad he did, but Cassius Clay was the man behind a lot of big moves, clearly. But you never heard his name, and the only Cassius Clay I knew was Muhammad Ali. I'm not gonna lie. Until right now, the only Cassius Clay that I knew of was Muhammad Ali. So I don't think we talked about him in school at all. There's no way. There's no way we talked about Cassius Clay in school. I would have
Emancipation
remembered that part.
Proclamation freeing the slaves of the South. Cassius Clay is literally the man that bullied Abraham Lincoln into prematurely signing the Emancipation Proclamation before he wanted to. And nobody talks about it. Fast forward again to 1865, the Union wins the Great American Scrimmage, the slaves are freed. Cassius Clay has achieved his lifelong goal at the age of 55, bringing an end to slavery in the United States of America. He then goes back to Russia again to serve as ambassador until 1869, and while he is there, he helps to broker the purchase of Alaska. This man is probably the most influential person in American history that you've never heard of. After returning home from Russia, Cassius Clay would live out the rest of his days in Whitehall until the age of 80 years old, where he would be declared clinically insane, in hindsight, most likely due to a severe amount of PTSD, as well as potentially dementia. He didn't die from it. He lived on for quite a bit longer. He just picked up a new hobby of
He still didn't die. They called him clinically insane, said he had dementia, and he's roughly 80 years old. He's still not dying. That boy got a lot of fight in him. That's what that is, bro. You ever heard that? You got a lot of fight in you? That's what that is.
dementia. He didn't die from it. He lived on for quite a bit longer. He just picked up a new hobby of fucking with the local sheriff because he was crazy now. Over the course of the next decade, Clay and the sheriff would have multiple run-ins that would be concluded when the sheriff and 7 deputies were repelled from Whitehall when Clay utilized his home defense cannon that he had at the top of his stairwell. At that point, the local sheriff would inform the local judge he will not be returning to Whitehall to tangle with Cassius Clay anymore unless the judge was willing to dispatch an entire company of the local militia to accommodate him. Then in 1900, 2 men would break into Whitehall, and Cassius Clay at the age of 89 would manage to kill both of them, one by gunshot and one, yet again, with his trusted Bowie knife. Then in
Bruh, that Bowie knife has seen more action than a Peacorn Star in 1980, bro. Way more
1903, at the
action.
age of 92, Cassius Clay would die of natural causes, or as they called it back then, general exhaustion, which is the most gangster way on the planet to go out. Literally just, I'm tired now, peace. And then he left.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
In conclusion, when it comes to famous historical household names, there's always another man or woman lurking behind the scenes in the shadows that's deemed too rough around the edges to be in the spotlight, yet they contribute just as much, if not more, to the movement. These men and women are willing to do horrific things for terrific reasons. And when it came to Abraham Lincoln and the abolition of slavery, that man's name was Cassius Marcellus Clay, the most gangster politician in American history. Thanks for watching the video. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
The Fat Electrician. Oh, that was a good video. That was a good video, bro. So, okay. I've been introduced to the Fat Electrician. I like the dude. He's funny and informative. But finding out who Cassius Clay was the whole reason why I was here. And yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone more gangster, especially in politics, than that man. And all of like just a simple story of him in Mexico. But then you go to Russia, Russia. We all have this image of Russians being like the coldest people. Like you cannot warm them up. You can't get them to do anything you want them to do. They do whatever they want. But this man goes over there and convinces them to one, not support something, and then also give up Alaska. Shout out to the boy, Marcellus. I mean, and that's a pretty, like, come on now. I know a couple of brothers named Marcellus. Know a couple of brothers named Cassius. Is that where this comes from? He had such an impact. He had such an impact on freeing slaves that people of color were just like, we're just going to keep that name going. And I see why. But I never knew that. No one has ever told me this until today. Shout out to the fat electrician for this, man. That was good. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you like it. I'm really trying not to sneeze right now. These allergies are killing me. But enjoy your day. You know where those buttons are. You know what they do. And make sure you have a good day.